Yeah, hi everyone, and good evening to all. Thanks, Nisha, for accepting our invite to discuss this very important topic, uh, which is in on mind of everyone. But let's discuss this. So, what happened very recently? I was listening to one YouTube video about how to create. It was related to about focus. Right? It was a TEDx talk. It it was about unwavering focus. And the speaker's opening remark caught my attention. So he said that we are always told to concentrate. We also tell kids to concentrate, right? But if you really reflect back, very rarely we are taught how to concentrate. And even if we are taught how to concentrate, we rarely do practice to concentrate, right? And I felt in sports and fitness, we all do similar mistake about mental strength or mental training, things like that, right? We all agree that to excel in sport or even in fitness, to achieve your goal, we should have that resolve, we should have that mental strength. And while we do lots and lots of physical exercises to achieve our goals, we sometimes overtrain, and predominantly the crowd is of endurance runners, and they have this notorious habit of overtraining. Yeah, so we do all of that, but we rarely try to train our minds. And so we would like to, learn from a elite swimmer like you, uh, and of course you have been now a coach, uh, quite successful coach as well. And I know you also train your uh, two daughters. So from parents' perspective, also about mental strength, right? So a lot of angles. And this is a so while we start, I thought it might be appropriate to start with Olympics because this is the Olympic year, right? Just around the corner. Olympic is just around the corner. And when somebody completes marathon, we say that you are part of 0.001 or less than that population. But you have the distinction of being 0.0000 whatever one of the population who can proudly carry the title of Olympian, right? So I think it will be appropriate if we start our session with this. Uh, so please give us an give your perspective about how special Olympic is, right? Because we have seen it only on only on TV, etc. So it will be great if you can start with a perspective of how special this event is.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Hello, Prabodh sir. Thank you for having me. Hello to all the fellow Chennai Jaguars and all of you from all over the country. Great to be here. I'd love to start, like sir had asked me about my Olympic journey. When I started thinking about the Olympics, like many of you growing up, I think we used to all watch sports or anything big on Doordarshan. So I remember when the Olympics was telecast in 1992. This was the Barcelona Olympics. I had just learned how to swim. So I wasn't a very well-known swimmer. I wasn't even at the state level. I was just starting my swimming career, learning how to swim, taking part in smaller competitions. And when I watched the Barcelona Olympics, something in me shifted. They say it's a defining moment where almost every Olympian at some point realizes, okay, this is my goal. So me being just 10 years old at the time, I had learned to swim at the age of 9. Watching Barcelona Olympics, I had never seen anything like it. You see the big grand opening ceremony. More than that, when the swimming events came on, I saw somebody called Matt Biondi. He's a triple Olympian from America, and this was his third Olympics, and he went on to win 2 gold medals. And I could see him diving in, like a dolphin doing the butterfly stroke. And immediately I just turned to my parents and I said, I want to go to the Olympics. And the biggest credit that in their favor, what they didn't do, they did not laugh at me. Other parents might have said, like, what are you talking about? Or, it's a joke. I was a really quiet 9-year-old kid who just learned how to swim. Yet my parents just took it. They saw that look in my eyes that I'm dead serious about this. And already I was going to the pool maybe 3-4 times a week. And I told them that I want to get to the Olympics. And it was not even, this is 1992, not even 4 years later, once I got into competition, once I started training, I had my chance of making the first Olympics. By the time I was one of the fastest swimmers in the country, but it's not a fairy tale story. So one thing you have to realize about Olympics, yes, you will see Mary Kom winning a bronze medal or a Sindhu winning a medal, but what comes leads up to that nobody sees. So for me, 1990 when I learned swimming, 1992 I started my dream. 1996 for Atlanta Olympics, I was one of the fastest, but no Indian woman did the qualifying time. So what happened then? It was left up to the federation. They said, "Oh, Nisha is only 14 years old. Why should we send her now? She has a lot of time." So some foreign athlete had come in. Her father is Indian. She never even swum in India. She swam one event in India. They sent her for the Olympics. So that really hurt. And that is a critical point in my career where I could have said, "Oh my God, there's so much of politics. I'll never do it." My father was very clear. I am not going to pay any officials. I'm not going to bribe anybody. If you want to qualify in 2000, you have to earn your way. If you leave it up to the federation, I don't have the money to go and bribe them and I will not do it. So this is up to you. We are there to support you 100%. So like, it's a common saying that the Olympics is not once every 4 years. It's every single day. You wake up early, you take the decision to give up some of your, as a young girl, 14, 15-year-old, I wouldn't go for parties. Birthdays were spent in the pool. New Year's Eve, everybody's partying. I must sleep by 9 o'clock. 5 a.m. on Jan 1st, I'm in the pool. So it has to come from within. That's the first thing I would say about the Olympics. You cannot have this Olympic pursuit. Somebody else wants you to do it. It's not going to happen. Even with my kids, as much as I want them to, I keep telling them 2032 Olympics, I want you to be there. But at the end of the day, if they don't want it themselves, they will not make it there. So first is to have that goal. Second is to for the parents and to have the support structure, but the interest and the it has to be an intrinsic motivation coming from within. If the parents are the ones pushing the child, and you can see this, I'm sure, Pramod, so you've seen in Basungudi, I know your daughter also used to swim there. Many parents are pushing the kids are crying, they don't want to come. You will not see that athlete at the Olympics. Maybe they'll get to the state level with a lot of pushing. The first thing is wanting to do it yourself. And so 96, having missed it, 4 years, I could say, obsessed that I am going to do it. Your eating, sleeping, your dreams, everything is only about the Olympics. That is how it has to be. It has to consume your full life. It can't be, even my school, everything took a backseat. Yes, I was still going to school, college, but at the end of the day, that was number 2 for me. I had to give 100%. And it was very, very difficult, but 4 years of this. And in 2000, when I finally went for the swimming meet, as they say, I got into the zone. You hear a lot about this term, getting into the zone. So this is where I think later on we'll discuss more in detail. But mental training played a very big role because physically I've been training for many years. Only when I started realizing the importance of mental training, then I realized that this can take me another level. Because, dealing with the pressure, I cannot explain in words. At 18, I was in Australia. Media is calling me. Do you think you can qualify? Last time you missed out. Why only 1 billion people and very few Olympians? So there's so much of stress. And even now, can you imagine our Olympians going to Tokyo? They have social media. They have, managers helping them. They have brands sometimes that they endorse. So this is very, very difficult. So I remember that morning when I swam, I had zero stress because I was thinking that in the finals, I'm going to try and qualify for the Olympics. This was the heats. So heats, you're just competing to have a place in the final. I knew I could definitely make it. So I got into the pool, did my warm up. I came out, I was feeling fresh and great, very focused. So I think when you're really focused, all the distractions die away. I had some light back pain, but in that moment, I didn't feel any of it. I just felt totally relaxed. I was enjoying everything. I got onto the starting blocks. Everything is so clear in my mind now, 21 years later. The whistle blowing, diving in, feeling so amazing in the water. And I was leading my heat, so turning and then pushing. And I can see that, 7 other Australian girls who are my age, I'm beating them. So that gives you more confidence. And I am somebody who does a lot of negative splits. I'm sure all the runners are very, very well aware of it, where my second 100 is always faster than my first 100. So the second 100, I pushed even more. And I touched the wall. And first thing I do is like a force of habit. I looked at my mother. My mother and my sister were in the stands. And I could see my mother is jumping around, and she almost looked like she's going to fall into the pool. And I'm wondering, like, why is she so excited? Yes, I've qualified for the finals. I won my heat. Then she's pointing, to the scoreboard, like, look at the timing. And when I looked at the timing, that's when I realized that, can you imagine that, I have gone 2 seconds faster than my best, and I've already qualified for the Olympics. Then I was, in tears. I was screaming. I was excited. My coach, my Australian coach, was excited, calling my father, who's sacrificed, he has never missed a swimming meet or even swimming practice for almost, say, 9 years of my career, since 1991 to 2000. But he could not afford to send all four of us to Australia. My mother and my sister also came with me. So he sacrificed and stayed back. It would have been his dream to see me qualify, but calling him was such an amazing moment. And I'll just briefly touch on the Olympics. It's a magical experience. First of all, when you walk in, they don't treat you any differently. You can walk into the Olympic Village, they will treat you the same as an Abhinav Bindra, as a Serena Williams. So once you go into that athlete village and you wear the ID card and you wear your team tracksuit, your India tracksuit, you become an Olympian. So for an 18-year-old, this is an amazing moment for me. I think at that point of time, the pressure did get to me because you're so excited looking at the top athletes, looking at people that you have on your posters on your wall, and now you're swimming in the same pool as them. I was sitting next to the world champion once on the bus, and I said hello to him, and he said, "Hello, which event are you swimming?" And that is something, for a young girl, 18-year-old, it made my whole year. So I cannot explain meeting Leander Paes. Leander Paes now has got 7 Olympics. He's the highest, in fact, in the world. There are very few Olympians, maybe 2 others like him who have done 7 Olympics. But he was a captain. And in the previous Olympics in Atlanta, he won a bronze medal. So this is my idol growing up. And I went to meet him. And for the first time in my life, I was speechless. I couldn't talk. Normally, I'm very talkative. I didn't know what to say. You're meeting Leander Paes. And immediately he put his arm around me and he said, "Nisha, you qualified for 200 freestyle. That's a middle distance event, right? When is your event?" I was so shocked, like, wow, Leander Paes knows my name. He knows my event. So, it's small things like this, sir, where like the Indian captain, he knew every single athlete, what name, what event, little bit about their journey. And just having somebody, that senior give you that word of advice, a word of encouragement, that can really make all the difference, So those are some really special moments. Going for the Olympic opening ceremony, sitting next to me was Abhinav Bindra, the great, the only individual gold medalist for India till date. He was also 18, same age as me. And just to show you, I'm going to talk, my first topic today is going to be about goals. And how I mentioned my goal was to get to the Olympics, which is great. Like you said, it's 0.0001 of the population. Now, Abhinav Bindra is one level above that. At the opening ceremony, I was so emotional. I was crying, like, happy tears. Like, I've made it, I'm so, like the emotions are very overwhelming, sir. And thinking about my parents watching at home, thinking about representing the country. Abhinav was sitting next to me, and when I turned to look at him, he didn't have any expression on his face. He was not emotional. Those days I was thinking, like, what is wrong with this guy? This is a huge event. It was his first Olympics also. But there was no expression on his face. I didn't think much of it. Many years later, when he won that Olympic gold medal, I said, Abhinav, there's one question I've always wanted to ask. I didn't want to be rude and ask it in Sydney. But when I saw your face in the opening ceremony, almost every athlete was emotional, smiling, crying, laughing. You had no expression. What was going through your mind? That is when he said, Nisha, I was already planning how and when I'm going to win my Olympic gold. So that is the difference. I dreamt of going to the Olympics. I went there, but I didn't go any further. Abhinav not only dreamt of going, but he said, I want to win gold. And he didn't think of, I want to go to the finals. I want to win a medal. He had one thought, and that is gold. So that shows you the importance of having a dream. Really, it was a really special feeling. Like, I can't explain it in words properly.
Yeah, great. Nisha, you just walked everybody through this fantastic moment. I also had goosebumps now when you are describing about your mother jumping, and I can make out how that happens. What emotions can be there. But actually, you got us into the second. My second question would have been about how much preparation goes into something like this, right?
Yes.
And you explained part of it, of course. when we the endurance runners practice, we practice for a 6 hour marathon, 5 hour marathon, 4 hour marathon, and we train for that kind of time once weekend.
Yes.
So I would like them to get an idea about how much amount of effort in terms of, let's say, time or maybe the distance of swimming or whichever. You can just give some glimpses of the intensity of
Definitely.
training. That will
No,
be great.
definitely, sir. Like you said, people only see the end result. And like you said, my swimming event is very short. My Olympic swim, it finished in 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So you think about training 9 years for 2 minutes, 8 seconds. I'll just break up what an average training day was like. And this was all the way from the age of 10 all the way till I finally qualified when I was 18. So 8 years, I did this 6 days a week. Morning, I'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and my parents would never come and wake me up. They said it is even at the age of 10, you want to go to swimming, you wake up. And in fact, if we are not awake, you wake us up. So I would put my alarm, those old fashioned alarms in those days. Once it rings, the first thing, even if you're tired, I had the Olympic rings next to my bedside. So I see that immediately I understand, like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Trust me, in December in Bangalore, no heated pools. It is not a fun thought. Your body is tired, but you have to get yourself out of bed. That is the first step. Get out of bed, get moving. Then we would reach the pool by 5:30. You know my coach Pradeep Kumar very well. He does not like people being late. He doesn't care if you're a national champion or if you're a beginner swimmer. He is very clear about, if you come more than 10 minutes late, you please go home. Obviously, you're not serious. So we would make sure my parents, speed, wake them up early, do whatever, eat something, banana in the car. My mother would give me that horrible ragi malt every morning. Till today, till today, I won't touch the ragi malt because I'm so sick of it. But all that, all these small things really helped. Later on, you realize that, but in those days, we're like, okay, fine, mom is asking me to drink this ragi malt. You have to drink ragi malt or no swimming. So I would drink it, go to the pool. We'd get in the pool at about 5:30. We do at least about close to 7 to 8 kilometers in the morning. Already you're quite exhausted. Change into your uniform, in the swimming pool changing room. Eat your breakfast, idli sambar, or some, a sandwich, egg sandwich in the car, because you don't have time to sit and have a relaxed breakfast. And you go directly to school. Now, this is when I learned something very important, sir, which is time management. Because you cannot train for any professional sport and not be good at managing your time. You cannot be distracted. You have to be very focused, and from a very young age. So very early, I realized that if I don't finish my homework in school, I cannot finish it. So I would finish my homework in my lunch break while eating, while my friends are noisy, they're talking, they were talking about the focus. Everything is going on around you. I would be like, no, I have to finish my homework, quickly finish my homework in the lunch break. Maybe I get 5, 6 minutes to talk to my friends. So a lot of people who did not understand me thought I was very rude. They thought, Nisha is not bothering to talk to us. She's sitting and doing her homework. But they did not know what my time before and after school was like. I had no time. So I'd finish that, go back to the pool again about 4:30 in the evening, another 7 to 8 kilometers of swim. Before that, in those days, there was not much strength and conditioning, but whatever we could do in terms of light weights, a lot of core, what we call stretch cord, arm actions. So doing our arm actions. So that plus, so close to about 16 kilometers a day. And we did this six days a week, sir. We'd come back by 8:39 because my house was the opposite side of town, almost from going from Frasertown all the way to Baswangudi every day. And you come back, you have no energy. Maybe I'd watch 10 minutes of some TV. I'm so tired, I was almost falling asleep on the dining table. So this is not, when people think that winning is amazing, talk about the journey, it is not easy at all. So I think this is also why you wanted me to share, is because to a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, this is very difficult. You see your friends going on some school picnic. You see, once my parents left me, they said, Nisha, you have important training, but we have a wedding. Do you mind if we leave you and go? So I stayed with my coach and his mother. And I was in bed at some, 9 o'clock in the night. Jan first morning, they're all sending, pictures. People are calling and wishing. I was fast asleep. 5 a.m. in the morning, I was training. So you really have to, you have to choose every day what you want to do. Are you going to push yourself? Are you going to be comfortable? I could have been happy and said, yes, I'm national champion. This is good enough for me. And a lot of people did that. But I had that hunger that I want to get to the Olympics. I will do whatever it takes. So 1996, I missed. 2000, I made it. Again, I tried for my second Olympics in 2004. Again, I missed. So throughout that, there's one thing that never changed, which is, like you said, it is only the practice. In sports, you don't get lucky. At least in swimming, you definitely don't get lucky. There is no lucky draw, like you get a good draw in some other sports. You don't get that. In swimming, you compete against everyone. Right. And only the top 8 make it. So it was a very tough journey, sir. And only, like I said, you were talking about this, only when I learned how to get mentally stronger as well, that helped take my swimming from, say, a national level to the international level.
Yeah. So that's precisely what I was about to say, that the journey you explained has been done by many of your competitors as well. Yes. Right? To reach the nationals and to be just 2 seconds less than you, or no fraction of a second less than you, and you could make it. So that leads to the next question about how much of, in how many ways really the mental aspect hampers an athlete's sports performance, right? Because the practice, the effort, what you said, a lot of them are doing it.
Yeah.
So what is the role of that mental aspect?
Definitely, sir. Like you said, it's about, like you said, almost we had about 70 or 80 athletes in Basungudi training with me at the BAC swimming pool. One of your own Jayanagar Jaguars, Dr. Srinand Srinivas, a good friend of mine, Nandu. He was right there with me doing some very tough workouts, the same as also studying, to become a doctor someday. And when it came time for his Olympic trial versus his CETs, he chose the CET and to become a doctor. So it's just about those everyday choices. It's not that everybody else didn't work as hard as me. They worked as hard. But like you said, there are 2 things that really helped me, sir. One was I used to write down my goals. I was very particular about writing down the goals. This is something you'll see with all competitive athletes, like the great Michael Phelps, right? 23 gold medals. Can you imagine that? Nobody has ever, and probably will never come to that number of medals as an individual athlete. We don't even have that in terms of the entire Indian medal count for all the Olympics. Yes. We don't reach 23. So to show you why I'm bringing his name up is he writes down his goals, and when he writes it down, he puts it out on paper. He only shows his coach, nobody else. And can you imagine, he actually wrote down that I will win 8 gold medals. And this is not something easy. It's not like qualifying for the Olympics. Winning 8 gold medals when there are athletes from all over the world swimming so many different events in one program. And he actually got it done. So one is write down goals. I would make sure that I never celebrate. I enjoyed my celebration. My celebration would be like, I've broken a national record. My dad will say, okay, how do you want to celebrate? I want one Mars chocolate. Very simple stuff, because I knew my main goal was the Olympics, So it was very small. Enjoy your victories, but don't get carried away. Only when I started going to international meets, I realized in India, we are nowhere. And then you start getting very nervous, because when I was in Australia, almost all the swimmers were at least 4-5 inches taller than me, much stronger than me, physically more like genetically gifted, put in a lot more effort into strength and conditioning. And that's when I realized that I was starting to get very nervous. The first few meets I swam in Australia, I was not doing well at all. One more good thing that they do there, which I started doing more closer to the Olympics, is to race more. You can train really well. On the race day, if you choke and you let the pressure and the nerves get to you, you can't get to the top. So this is when I was in Australia, they decided everybody in our swimming team is going to meet the sports psychologist. Would you also like to go? Now in India, we never heard of the word sport. I mean, we had heard of it, but I didn't even know a single sports psychologist, because when you hear the psychologist, the word psychologist, you will think, okay, something's wrong with them, so they're going to the psychologist. So it's a very, it's a misconception that only if something's wrong, you need to go. Everybody needs help with mental health, whether it's, you could be something serious like you're suffering through depression, or it could be you just want to elevate your game. You want to go faster, you want to perform better. So my attitude really changed when I was in Australia, and I went and had a couple of sessions with a sports psychologist. And I was just starting to study psychology in my in Mount Carmel College as well. So I think both came side by side, and she was talking about, Nisha, how many hours a day? I told you my schedule: 16 kilometers a day, close to 6 hours a day of physical training. And that's when she said, how long are you spending training your mind? And I thought about it, and I've literally not spent any time. And she said, why people are at the Olympics, why they're winning Olympic medals is because they're mentally stronger. Like you said, 80 swimmers in Basungudi are doing the same workout as me. But why did I get to the Olympics? It has to be that extra that you put in. So that for me, I think was a mental strength. Yes, my parents were types who really used to push me. My father would counsel me a lot. He's not an athlete himself, but he used to watch a lot of these interviews, with the greats. And he used to be a big tennis fan. Steffi Graf, in those days, Andre Agassi. He used to keep telling me that this is what they're saying. After a loss, you cry, get upset. Anyway, no one will know. You'll be crying in the pool. Your eyes will be red. So that's fine. Do all that. Come out of the pool. We look and see what you did wrong. Reflect on what you did wrong. And, mentally reset and say, okay, I have my next goal. Let me learn from this and move on. So very important to mentally train. So this psychologist worked with me on a couple of things. She just taught me how to focus. Focus and to say no to things. I'm a person who did not know how to say no. I would like to please everybody. So suppose a reporter calls, and I'm very tired, I need to be sleeping, but I'd feel bad to say no, I would still take the call. And sometimes it'll go on for half an hour. So she said, Nisha, you've trained 9 years for this. If you want to get to the Olympics, that mental element is very important. You need to learn how to focus. She gave me some simple drills, where she told me once to, I still do it sometimes, put on music and then try and do a task. So loud music, and then try and do I was still in college in those days, try and do your college work. Initially, I couldn't deal with it. I'm like, why is she giving me this? Because it's too much going on. And then slowly she would just tell me that you have to just think about all that as background noise. Sometimes, if you're really tired and your parents are talking, I think a lot of our kids do this, right? They just tune us out. So she made me hone these skills, and she would make me do my work with loud music on and say, I want you to do it properly, keep focusing, literally like having blinkers on, like what you see with the horses. You're not seeing anything on either side of you. There could be an earthquake happening, you wouldn't know because you're fully focused. And if you see a lot of the top athletes, you will see them coming in with their earphones. They always do that because it's a way to just drown out the sounds, people shouting or some competitors talking. So what I really learned there was how to focus. And that's why that morning, like I mentioned, when I went there to compete and try out for the Olympic qualifying time, I was so focused. I didn't think about the fact that my back was hurting. It's a morning swim. Typically, athletes perform, at least swimmers, we're used to racing the finals in the evening. I didn't think about all those things. I was just focused on, okay, this is my lane. I was in lane 4. I need to do 4 laps and I need to touch the wall in the fastest possible time. I was so focused, I can't remember anything of what happened around me. So that is the kind of focus that is required. And the next thing she taught me, like I said, is how to say no to things, how to prioritize. She said, she told me, what is affecting you? I said, one is my father keeps asking me 100 times a day, how are you? Are you going to do it? What if you don't do it? What about the next meet? So she said, see, he's doing it because he loves you and he cares. But if it's affecting you and he really cares about you, you be open with him and say, Dad, when I talk to you, I want to talk about the weather in India, my friends, what you ate for lunch, nothing to do with swimming. So I told my father this, and you know how they call them tiger moms, and my father is a tiger dad. He was fully focused. So I would say, Dad, the psychologist has told me that I'm not supposed to talk to you about swimming because I'm getting very stressed. He's like, what rubbish is this? He didn't understand. Then I said, no, then he said, why? I said, no, I feel very stressed out after talking to you because I realized how much you all have given up. My parents had sold their house in Chennai and put the money into my swimming career. By 18, I think you're old enough to understand how much of money, time, effort has gone into it. So it's not just about enjoying your sport anymore, right? You have a lot of expectations. My coach, my sister, right? She always got a little less attention because the last few months before the Olympics, they were focused on me. So all these things, when I told my dad that, initially he was saying, what is this? Then when I explained that I am getting nervous, he just stopped talking to me about swimming. And it was really great. I felt like a huge weight is lifted off. I was able to focus without any distractions. People would call me. I wouldn't take any, in those days, luckily, we didn't have social media. People can't just message you. We had, one phone in the apartment. My mother would just put it off, disconnect it, put it off the hook. And that is it. So those two things, I think, learning how to really focus in and learning how to say no to people. Those two things really helped me get my goal. And that's when I realized how important, mental training is. And I've always had this dream of getting back into sports psychology. And of course, when I came back, then I had the next dream of going for the next Olympics. When I retired from swimming, I got into my swimming career. But now I'm slowly getting back into the mental element of sports, because at any level, I think the mental strength is 50% of what you need to win your race or to reach your goals.
Yeah. So that takes us to the next question about what are the different techniques this champion athletes or any athlete, need not be even
Yeah.
champion, right? But
Yeah.
what are the different techniques being used?
So my favorite one is visualization. So especially for a competition environment, uh, like you'll notice when you're running with a group, all the JJs are running with you, you're in Jayanagar, you know the roads like the back of your hand. Your runs will seem a lot more effortless. So similarly in the pool, when I'm training in BSc or in India, it's very relaxed. But when you go out of your comfort zone, then that's what gets you very nervous. So one thing that really helps pro athletes is to visualize. So what we do is 2-3 days before the competition, I would start lying down in a dark room, and this is the time you've already reached the venue of your competition. So you know that, okay, the swimming pool is different, the starting blocks are on this side, changing room is here, there's very bright lights on the ceiling, it's an indoor pool, different elements. When you close your eyes, you literally take yourself through every single part of your competition day, what routine you will follow. So right from waking up, what breakfast will you eat? And when you're visualizing, you only visualize in a positive way. You don't think that, something's going to go wrong. You always think everything will go fine. I will get into my vehicle, get to the venue. I'll do my warm up. I'll feel nice and relaxed. My body will feel great. So you're thinking about all this, and you're literally this a positive attitude, a positive mentality is the best thing you can do for yourself. If you let even little bit of doubt creep in, that's when everything goes downhill. So I would imagine getting on the starting block, what the sound of the gun, we have a beep, not a gun, but like a beep, electronic beep to start, what that will sound like, how I will dive in, how many kicks I will do. Now, yes, something like this is possible in a 200-meter freestyle, but you might be saying that, okay, I'm running a full marathon. There's so many other things that I can't control, right? 3 to 4 hours or more of being on the road with different variables. Yes, but you can control so many more things, right? You can control your warm up, how you felt. So visualize all these things, getting ready for the race, starting the race, and some parts of your race that, you will hydrate regularly, you'll wave out at your friends. And always the most important part of the visualization is, visualizing the outcome. If you are not invested in that outcome, then it's of no use doing this visualization. So I would always picture that not only have I won the race, but I want a certain timing, because winning a gold medal, after a certain point, you win enough gold medals, it loses. You are more worried about, is my timing where my goal was? Have I qualified for some event, or have I gone faster than I did last year? So that is more important. So I think for runners especially, and I know because now I'm a half marathoner, not yet a marathoner, but it's so difficult. I understand how many different, changes in the environment can affect your performance. But at the same time, if you're an athlete, you learn how to deal with that. And through the entire thing, the second thing that I think really helps, apart from visualization, visualizing yourself reaching your goal, doing well. Sometimes, like, I like to celebrate. I'm quite a dramatic person. When I finish, I'll put my hands up. I'll even do it now. I might have come 30th in the, in the, what is it, one of the Bangalore marathon, but I'll still celebrate, because for me, I've reached a certain timing. I finished a race. And the second most important thing, I think, is, learning how to have that positive self-talk. This, I think, will help, especially the athletes, especially in endurance athletes. I know, because I saw some of my longer races, like 1,500 meters freestyle, would take about 15, 20 minutes or more. And what we would do then is, through the entire race, or even through a very long workout. I know when you're doing a long run, or you're doing a hard interval set, or a fartlek run, whatever you're doing, you're in a lot of pain. But you need to have that positive self-talk. It could be simple things like one step in front of the other. It could be something like this pain is just temporary. When I finish this run, that pain will go away. You need to keep that mantra and keep repeating it in your head. So when I talk to young kids also, I tell them that what you say to yourself is much more important than anything your parents, your coach, your fellow teammates can say to you. Because if you know what you want, you keep telling yourself that you can do it. So many people laughed at me. Yesterday I was talking to, on another event, I was talking to Niranjan Mukund. He's a
Yeah.
para swimmer. You
Yeah.
know him. So
Yeah.
he's
He has
a
come to
para
JJ,
athlete.
so everybody knows him.
Yes, you all know Niranjan. He was saying that people laughed at him. Even as an able-bodied athlete, when I used to say Olympics, they used to just smile like, yeah, sure. But they wouldn't say something. They would say, okay, sweet, she's a very sweet girl. Let's not get upset her. But with Niranjan, they used to tell him, what is wrong with you? You can get injured. Pool, you could drown. Like they were literally telling him that you will ruin your life. And he still, went against the odds. So literally that self-belief and how you talk to yourself, this is what will help you through. Even now, if I'm running a marathon, I don't care. I mean, as a pro athlete, I want to win all the races, but I know I can't do that. At the same time, I have my goals. It could be a pace goal, or I want to finish in the top 10. Typically, it's normally I want to get a certain timing. But through the entire race, you will see I never run anybody else's race. If I have some friends who started with me, great. It's nice to start with the group, right? But I know a couple of times Reet has got me those, VIP pass. I'm in the front of the group. Obviously, as a pro athlete, I know there's no way I can, keep up with all the fast guys. You have Arun or CK or one of them racing. You can't be anywhere close to those guys. So I'm smart enough to know that, I need to stick to my goals, do my own race, and I will just mentally talk myself up. I mean, I remember one competition, I did a flip turn and I had a bad cold, and some of the water went into my inner ear. I did exhale enough, and suddenly, this is the 800-meter swim, sir. I was leading by almost half a lap, and I just started feeling so dizzy after 400 meters. And just the sheer willpower, I continued swimming for the next 100. So about 500 meters out of 800, I can see people catching up, and I'm feeling very dizzy. And in my mind, I'm like, I cannot give up. But literally, I could not even see the wall. I was feeling like, like losing this orientation, which is very dangerous in a pool or anywhere, but water is even more dangerous. And I actually stopped, and everybody was shocked. I was the reigning state champion. I was trying for the nationals, and I didn't finish that race. And it was so difficult for me. Went to the doctor. Doctor confirmed, yes, you had some serious issue. And I appealed to the state government, the swimming federation, that please give me another shot. They said no, so I missed out on that race. But you can, rest assured, for the next time I swam that 800-meter freestyle, I beat everybody by some 25 meters. So it's really how you deal with the setbacks. So even if you're doing endurance sport, you will have some issue. You might start cramping. Suddenly it'll rain. This is very, very common in swimming pools. We have so many different things. In India, one day we went to our swimming meet. This is the nationals. This is not some small event, senior nationals. The previous night, there'd been a sandstorm and the water is dark brown. Okay. And in those days, very tough to get flights and, train tickets. So nobody could postpone the meet. We had to do it that day. And I, unlike the other swimmers, I swim without goggles. So this could have been disastrous. So literally, I just closed my eyes, counted my strokes, because, as somebody who prepared well, prepared for eventualities like this by counting the strokes that it takes me to swim 50 meters, I closed my eyes and swam the full race. And by the next day, they had improved it. They suctioned the water out and put in chemicals. But if I hadn't prepared well for this, and mentally, if I didn't give myself this positive talk that, yes, you can do this, you've got it. So what if the others are wearing goggles? Even they can't see much. Even with goggles, you still can't see too much if the water is dark brown, right? You can't see the wall. And I don't think I broke the national record, but I came first. So it's about how you can, convince yourself, even through the toughest situations, that no, there is some workaround. There is some way I can overcome this obstacle, and just keep going and finish the race. Like I said, sometimes that doesn't happen, but if as much as you can, finish the race.
Right. So, there are people who are on this call. By the way, I can see Reed joining. Hi, Reed.
Hey, Reed.
So, there are people on the call who are not the competitive athletes, right? So I would like now to get a discussion towards more of the leisure athletes. And I prefer this word, as I see many of our endurance runners, and you would have seen this in the marathon, etc., which happens, right? They are putting in their lot of effort. So I prefer to call them athletes. But of course, they are not competitive, so I call them leisure athletes. So, many would be thinking, and I guess I'm asking this question, I'm asking this for them is uh, how it has helped competitive sport guy. Absolutely right. Uh, and you definitely has experienced everything. But will it really be required for a leisure athlete? That will be the question. I'm pretty sure in everybody's mind. So great, but we are not going to Olympics. We can't even run 16 kilometers a day every day.
So that's true, sir. But I've in the last say 10, 15 years that I've been coaching, like you said, I have a unique perspective because I've now transitioned into a coaching role. I have seen some masters athletes, like you call them leisure athletes, who train as hard or harder than some of the Olympians that I've met, and that's great. Why? Two things. One is nobody's pushing them. Mommy and daddy is not taking you and putting you at the pool. You are getting up, you are yourself, driving yourself. If you had a late night, it's your choice, but you still will go in the morning for 5 a.m. run. You miss your long run on a Saturday, you will be there on Sunday doing the long run. You run in the rain. So what I would say is there are two things when you become for a leisure athlete. One is when I was doing a call recently for another group of athletes, they're all triathletes. They said a lot of their friends asked them, "What is wrong with you?" Like, you can be relaxing, having a beer on a Saturday night or a Friday night. Why do you choose to sleep early, wake up at 4 a.m., put Vaseline, put all that, have gels, deal with chafing, deal with black toenails, all these things that are very painful. This is something that everyone goes through. Why do you do all this? And so somebody was asking me, like, what do I say to them? I said, it's purely about what is your goal? What is your outcome? It does not have to be going to the Olympics, like you said. It does not have to be. You should have your goal and you should know why you're doing it. And for me, the only way I was able to get there is because I love it. And I'm sure people, the reason they're running right now is because they love it. Maybe they love the social element. If that is why you go, great. Now, in the pandemic, that social element is reduced quite a lot. You can't do many group runs. Like I've seen, when I come to run in Jayanagar, nice groups of, JJs in their blue shirts, running bars. That social element is great. So maybe you're doing it for that. That's great. Go over there, enjoy the run. Then there might be another group of athletes who are doing it for weight loss. That is a great reason to do it, for fitness, for health reasons. People might think, oh, Nisha, it's easy for you to say. You've always been fit. No, I've not always been fit. I should have been. But like anybody else, I'm also human. After my babies, I have 7-year-old twins now. I totally let myself go. I put on close to 30 kgs. So obviously, I still think of my what I call competition weight, 56 kgs at the Olympics. I had gone up to close to 90 kgs. I remember when I know all of you are doing Abhinav's Nama CrossFit workouts, right? When I walked into Nama Fit about 5 years ago, I was 90 kgs. I was trying to hide behind all the machines and go in because I was so embarrassed, So I think that embarrassment about how can I let myself go? And people would come up and say, you're an Olympian. Like, they're a little shocked. Like, are you sure you're an Olympian? Because I was looking so unfit. I couldn't touch my toes. I couldn't even run 5 kilometers. That became like, I wouldn't say an obsession, but this is why I think I have about 98%, whether it's running, whether it's my gym training. I do not give myself any choice in the morning, right? I just say I have certain, goals to achieve. One goal was I need to get back as close to my competition weight. Obviously, I'm not 18 anymore and, swimming 16 kilometers a day. I do have a life. I have a business. I have kids. How much ever I can do, I realize, sir, I love sleeping in the morning. That is my dream in life, to wake up without an alarm clock, read the papers lying in bed. I've realized, I've come to the sad realization, it's never going to happen. I've realized that I have twins, I have a business, and if I want any time to do these physical, to get myself physically where I want to be, to reach my running goals. Next year is my 40th birthday. I want to run my full marathon. I have to do it early morning, because I'm somebody who the rest of the day I have a packed day. By the evening, I'm exhausted. I want to work out when I'm fresh, and this is my me time. So sometimes some of you might be doing this because it gives you a break from your normal life. You could have a very stressful job and work, family life. So look at it as something exciting. You should never look at it like, oh God, I have to go for this run. Then obviously there's something wrong. But I can see this with the reason I think the JJ community also has grown so much is one that you have great leaders in each area also to motivate people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is really good, sir, because I feel, like you said, for the leisure athletes, sometimes like this in the lockdown, they might think that there's no physical run, virtual runs, it's all fine. It's not so much of fun. If you're not going an actual run, they might think that, what's it? But when you have a team leader of your group saying that, come on, guys, this is the time I did. You can do better. Or, why haven't you worked out for a few days? When you have an app where people's, you have some accountability. This is what you need to do. So I think this is very good. So for leisure athletes, know why you're doing it. Some people do it for socializing. That's great. If your goal is to lose weight, get fit, maybe you're diabetic, you want to, try and get back to 100% healthy, physical state, great. Some of them, might do it literally as therapy. Like for me, I know in the lockdown, that 1 hour run, around Alsur Lake, Cubbon Road, this side of town, it literally was like therapy for me. Because for the first time in my life, I was confined in 4 walls. I was always in some swimming competition, pools, out always. I think most people are like that, And getting out there for me became like therapy for me. So whatever reason you're doing this for, yes, mental strength will help because I think this pandemic has really, emphasized or kind of brought back into the discussion how very important mental health is.
Yes.
Mental strength is one thing, but even mental health, being able to wake up, every day is the same, right? Every day you wake up, you're seeing higher COVID numbers. You're seeing that more races are postponed. People you are, very close loved ones might be seriously ill. So how do you stay focused? So I've seen this with all my athlete friends, whether it's Reeth who's on this call, whether it's Nandu, whether it's Abhinav who's a cricketer. There's so many of us. One thing that we do is, for me, I would just shift my focus. Okay, I can't go out. What can I do in the house? When there was a full lockdown, I think I cleaned every single part of my house. I just gave myself a new focus. Okay, today I'm going to focus on making my kids' room sparkling clean, So whatever I could do to get the mental health, my kids, they're only 7 years old, to all the parents out there, you will see how your kids are so sick of the online classes. So even now, they told me like, Mommy, you said this year we'll go back to school. We're sick. We don't want to do online classes. We'll skip a year. My mother had told them how training for the Olympics, I had missed 1 year of my college. So they said, you skip for Olympics, we'll also skip this year, And so even the kids are being affected by this. So I told them no. So what we do is to try and, make things different for them. Every day I make them do their studies in a different room. One day they'll be sitting on the living room floor. One day they're on their study desk. One day at the table. One day on the balcony. Now it sounds very chaotic, but I feel like, even for kids, this mental health is very important where you have to find new ways to keep yourself motivated, to make it new. Sitting in your house, how to stay motivated. So like you were asking me, mental training and mental strength, very, very important at any stage. It could help you ace that presentation at work. Sometimes you go on the night before a big presentation, you're really scared, you don't sleep. This is something us athletes train for. Very rarely, I think maybe just before the birth of my kids, that is the only time I was nervous. But everything else, anytime I've gone to talk, sometimes I've done huge talks to 1,000+ people. Once I remember talking to a group of 100 doctors and thinking I was just 21 years old. My father, like, how can I talk to 100 doctors? To compare to them, I know nothing. He's like, no, you just talk about what you know. So we learned very early to be very calm, follow certain routines. Like I said, the positive self-talk, that is the key. If you ask me nowadays, what you see on social media will affect you. Then put off your social media, delete your Instagram account. I know friends who have done this. For me, it's still a necessary evil for my business. I also enjoy it, of course. I enjoy, scrolling through Instagram. Everybody likes that. But some people, if it affects you so much, take it out of the picture. They talk about the great basketball player, Kobe Bryant.
Right.
He was ruthless. If he found that there's something in his life that he did not want, he would just remove it from his life. He didn't care if it hurt somebody's feet. If there's a teammate who was affecting everybody on the team, he would go and talk to the coach and say he's being a negative impact. So you have to be very focused on what you have to do and have that positive self-talk. So that's the most important thing I would say.
Yeah. So that actually leads to the next question. What I've seen happening is there are a lot of talented runners in JJs and other places also.
Yeah.
And what has started happening is that mass participation events are not happening. Right?
Yeah.
There is no Bangalore Marathon, there is no TMM. So I have seen many of them just are not coming for practice. Even with NEB, we created that event very specifically for them to get a competition in first lockdown. But still, all those who are supposed to be running, many of them just have lost the interest, lost the focus. So, any tips for such guys? They are just waiting to it start something, and
Correct.
they're just missing the bus. They are not understanding that 2
Yes.
years is a long time for the performance. So,
Yes, sir. I think that's
any
important.
tips?
Like you said, even if they're not training to win the Bangalore Marathon, but still, as a coach, I think you will also agree with me that even a few days away, like you had said, few days away itself, it sets you back a couple of weeks. So if you look at 2 years, if you've not been keeping your fitness levels up, your, at least some base, some slow long runs on the weekends, and you can do this on your own. I understand people are very nervous about stepping out, especially if they're living with elderly people or they've not yet got their second vaccination. I know some people who are running on their terrace,
Yeah.
so it's very important to keep that basic fitness always there. So maybe you don't enjoy doing a strength workout, then do a yoga workout at home. But having that fitness is very important, because if you suddenly put on, like I told you, I put on 30 kgs, I could hardly even finish a 10K run. And now that I've lost, close to about 20 kgs, 20, 22 kgs, I feel so much fitter. I know that my body also will recover. So mainly it's also about the recovery. You might be able to do a run if you're taking a break, but you won't recover as well. And you also start getting injured. So think about how much of hard work you've gotten to this point. That day I was talking to Divya as well, who's a JJ, and she was telling me how much of hard work she had got also to lose a lot of the weight, and I'm so impressed by people like her who are so dedicated, who focused. They have kids, they have businesses, they have jobs. You cannot give excuses. If you have to give excuses, nobody would have qualified for the Olympics this year. Even the competitive athletes, imagine swimmers, 9 months, they could not enter the pool. Now, other sports, you can do some things on land. Swimming, you can't do it on land. So we still had Srihari, Nataraj, and Sajan who qualified for the first time during A qualifying time.
A qualification.
The reason they did that, sir, they didn't give any excuses. Okay, you can't run, you can't swim. They did swimming movements on land as much as they could. They kept physically fit. They did mental strength training. They improved on their nutrition. A couple of them called me and would talk to me. So get counseling from somebody who's more senior to you, some of the top athletes. So the great thing about your platform also, I think, is that you're constantly engaging them. You're not just leaving them there. During the 2 years of the pandemic, it's not like some of the other groups who may not be organized. They're not just left out there. They have the experts. I'm sure, if they're injured, they will go and click on Srinan's link and they will get a consultation. They can deal with that. So don't give any excuses. At the end of the day, if you use excuses and you suddenly, now, like you said, sir, suddenly they announce the first run. Okay, there's going to be a live run in 2 months. Reet and Nagaraj sir will announce it. Then there'll be a mad rush, like, okay, come on, let's go back to training. But if you've not trained over these last few months, you will really suffer and you'll probably get injured, which is more scary. So you need to keep something going. Maybe take your children, run around your compound. It could be just a short, road outside is quite safe, on your own road, doing your repeats over there. So enough of the excuses, time to get back to training and putting in so much effort, and then going back. It's like taking 2 steps forward and then 4 steps back. We don't want that to ever happen. So maybe we're not as fit as we could have been if the pandemic was not there, but you shouldn't go back to, zero. You want to be somewhere at about 50%. Then when it fully opens out, we can go back to team runs. You can go back to, Madhavan Park and run. Then you can, get to 100% easier. So you have to tell yourself every day, everybody has excuses. That's why for me, the main thing is get out of my bed. First thing, I get out of my bed. After I brush my teeth, then I realize that even if I'm very tired, like there's no way I can go back to sleep. So my first thing will be to show up. Show up every morning, get out of your house, Now, whether you're running on your own with another friend or with a small, bigger, slightly bigger group, you will definitely do it. But the first thing is to wake up and show up. That is my little bit of,
Yeah,
advice
actually,
to you.
that would have been my next question, but you already answered that. My question would have been, any advice for Olympian to the leisure athletes, and what you just said. So you answered that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to allow people to ask questions.
Sure,
You'll
sure.
be still muted, but now you will be able to unmute and ask. And there is one first question I see coming. So let me take that first. Could you talk about goals versus journey? Why just journey is not enough in whatever we do? That's a question from Deepak. You are on mute. You'll have to unmute.
Correct, sir. No, it's a great question. I think, like you said, what is more important, the journey or the goals? First thing is the love for the sport. If you don't love it, that journey becomes impossible. Now, as a competitive athlete, I know for sure, if we did not love swimming, we could not have put up with, in the water, there is sensory deprivation. You can't hear or see anything. It's just up and down looking at a black line. You can't even hear noises from outside. So if you don't really love what you do, it's a very boring sport. You don't get to score goals, so things like that. So you have to love what you do. Yes, what you have to do is look forward to the journey. There will be a lot of pain. You need to learn to love pain. I think as an athlete, when I say pain, I mean exhaustion, fatigue, sometimes feeling like you want to throw up after some, really tough interval sets or some sprint session. The lactic acid's building up. You feel like you almost want to throw up. You need to think of it like, wow, I've really pushed myself. Instead of saying, oh God, I have to do this again next week. It's just about changing the narrative in your head. Every day having to show up, you have to just think, okay, I'm doing this, I'm getting stronger every single day. So the journey becomes a lot easier if you break it up into small goals. I would have like a 1 month goal, a 3 month goal, and then I would have a goal to, get there for 9 months. Like I told you, my 40th birthday is close to a year away, but I'm already planning my full marathon. I'm going to be very serious about my training runs. Generally, when I'm focused, nobody can, and I'm the only one who can make me lose that focus. So the journey is doable if you have, yes, a very important goal, but make sure your goals are realistic. Me trying to say that I want to come top 5 in the Bangalore marathon in a full marathon is quite unrealistic. Now, I'm very competitive. Don't get me wrong. If I'm racing with somebody, even if it's a guy, even if it's somebody I've known as a good runner, I will still, even if it's a Bobby, running next to me, sometimes I'll be trying to race him. I just my competitive nature. But at the end of the day, I know that my goal is so and so. So make it a goal which seems very challenging to you, but not unrealistic. Okay? So even like, yes, when I dreamt about the Olympics, it seemed like it could be an unrealistic goal. But I think as a leisure athlete, keep realistic goals where you know that, okay, I have only 2.5 hours every day that I can give for my running. Maybe 3 times a day, I can do my Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday run. That is all you have. Whatever happens, you do not miss out on that run. Unless you're sick, unless it's raining, even if it's raining, I've been known to
So
get up.
raining, no.
Yeah, it was raining a lot nowadays.
I won't allow, even if it's raining, they're running on the road.
Very good, sir. I like that attitude. Like you said, no excuses. Right. So that's something I like. When I talk to Pramod sir, I really feel like, this is the old school, hardcore. Not this, nowadays when I go to schools, they tell me you should tell the children that losing is okay. Winning is not the only important thing. I was like, no, I'm not going to tell children that, like this very bad habit of giving, like I know Reed's on this call, but I hate giving everybody participation medals. Like it's great to feel like you're finished. When I come back home, my kids will say, did you win a medal? I'm like, no. They're like, what is that? I'm like, participation medal. Because even to me, gold, silver, bronze is the medal. If I have not come top 3, this is just, something that my kids will play with. So I feel that you have to tell people that, yes, you have to win. Now, winning is very subjective. Winning doesn't mean standing on the podium. It should be whatever your goal is, you need to achieve it. That is for me is winning. So if you had planned to do a 4-hour full marathon, which is what I'm aiming for, yeah, I'm aiming for that 4-hour marathon. I'm going to make sure I get there. I know I will do whatever it takes. If I have to cut down on my corner house ice creams, if I have to put in one extra day to increase my yardage, I will do whatever it takes, and my priorities are very clear. And I am the most hard on myself. So be very hard on yourself. Journey, yes, every single day, no excuses. You have to be your toughest critic. Pramod sir should not be shouting at you and saying, come on. Yes, the coach is there to motivate you, but it has to come from within. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. You should do it for yourself, and you should be the one to kick your own butt and say, come on, you can get up in the morning, you can finish this race. A motivation should be from within.
Yeah. So next question is from Rohini, but I guess Rohini writes our weekly. There is something called as Monday motivation, and Dr.
Okay.
Rohini writes that piece. So I get Rohini, you got a nice tagline for tomorrow's piece, right? What she said: changing narratives in your mind. Right?
Right,
I
yeah.
think that was a fantastic piece. So let me read out Rohini's question. You talked about pain and discomfort during a workout. Athletes do have higher pain threshold. What mantra would you give to leisure athletes to improve their pain threshold? How can we learn to enjoy that? Good question.
I teach a lot of leisure swimmers, so I can relate that very easily to the runners. Similarly, they either have a goal of finishing a distance, it could be learning how to swim, it could be competing in the Masters. So I'll tell you the advice I give them, which is you have to get out of your comfort zone. If you're in your comfort zone, there will be no growth. Maybe you'll maintain your timing, you'll stay in the same pace group, you'll stay at the same weight. If that, some people are happy with that, then great. But if you want, my thing is you're putting so much of time, effort, like people think endurance runners are mad. Like, Abhinav, I'm sure has told you, so like, why are these people running such big distances? Because even for me, somebody who comes from a 200-meter freestyle, suddenly doing a 21-kilometer run. Yes, I was swimming 16 kilometers, but racing 21 kilometers is still a lot. So if you're putting in so much of time and effort, surely you owe it to yourself, to push yourself a bit. So you can own the reason athletes have higher pain, tolerance or higher pain thresholds, because that we train every single day. We do these, lactate tolerance tests. My coach Pradeep would, we'd have 8 into 100 freestyle diving from the block, max effort, and almost, maybe 3 times more rest than the work to rest ratio. But the lactic acid builds up so much, and we have testing, right? So they test either a finger or a ear to test our lactic acid levels. And the reason we're doing that is so that we continue to stay at high lactate, threshold levels and to maintain that. And it's very common, like, sir, I need to go throw up. No problem, throw up and come and give you 30 seconds more rest. That is it. It has to be business-like, right? There's no place for emotions in this. If you really want to achieve your goals, you cannot be emotional. You cannot start crying. I threw up. Nobody cares. At the end of the day, you will be there standing at the victory stand. You will be there finishing the marathon in 4 hours. Right? Yes, your coach will get some glory, but it is your own journey, right? So my thing is, the reason athletes have higher pain thresholds is because they're training every day under high levels of stress. They also learn to recover very well. And now it's some of these, like you had mentioned this earlier, sir, where people overtrain. They don't rest. Even I am quite guilty of that. And I get shouted at a lot, especially by Dr. Nandu. When I go to him, the other day I got an injury and he said, good, this is your body's way of telling you that you need to rest more, So this is something I need to tell you, that yes, push yourself. I'm talking about going out of your comfort zone. But sometimes we are so obsessed with, I have to do it. Now this pandemic, especially, our excitement in the day could be going for the run. Then you might overdo it. You might be running 6 to 7 days. Your knees could be crying. You could be having, major pain, IT band, strain, but you're still pushing through. Don't do that. Because the number of athletes that are injured, and if you can't lead a normal quality of life, where you can't run with your kids around, squat and pick up something from the floor, even things in your own house, if your sport is affecting you that way, then you're doing something wrong. Yes, you should be like, I can't remember a single day when you're walking up the stairs, my legs have always felt tired. When I quit swimming for a few years and I wasn't training and I put on a lot of weight, I used to be like, oh, wow, this is how it feels to walk up the stairs without any pain. You just walk up. Otherwise, my mother, somebody would be pushing me from the back, like one hand on my back, because so tired to get up the stairs. Now I'm back to that. I'm back to that again, where every day I'm exhausted. But I have learned to recover. I'm realized that I'm close to 40. get a little bit of recovery, but only way to improve your pain tolerance, not only the, masters athletes have as much or more. I'm sure Pramod sir, if you run a marathon the previous day, sir, and you have training the next morning, you will still be there, right? So that is your mantra. That is how you push yourself. So you have to, the only way to improve that pain threshold is to train for longer periods at that threshold, train smart and recover properly.
Great. Any other questions, guys? Because we have taken a lot of time of Nisha. Any other questions? You can unmute and ask question. You don't even have to type.
Yeah. Deepak here. I had a question. So this is basically my earlier experience on running. So I
Okay.
used to come and train, but when the race day used to happen, right in the middle of the race, I used to completely lose interest in the event.
Okay.
And I remember talking to Pramod sir and telling that. So this is, and then at some point I just totally stopped running. But the periodicity or the training and all, I was able to go and achieve success, and I went and did successfully triathlons and more cycling.
Yeah.
But running is something where, I used to, this is not during the regular workouts, but on the race day.
Race day only.
Halfway through, I was just lose complete interest, and I start walking, and I like, what is this, right? So what is that from the mental aspect? I understand now, like after 4 or 5 years, I'm getting back into running, but this is a mental aspect of it, and I want you to throw some light on it.
Definitely. How many triathlons did you do? You mentioned you managed to do the triathlon successfully.
Yeah, I did 3 triathlons. So I did Tonnur open lake, and also and I did one swimathon also.
Okay. And how many, compared to that, how many running races would you do in a year?
I used to do I did 6 half marathons up till then, 2015-16.
So one thing I can give you from my own personal experience is that for a long time, I also would get bored in the longer distance events and in the competition, because I would feel like I've gotten into a zone and I'm very comfortable. I like that element of the challenge. So I started competing in different races. So do you think maybe it could be that you're always running the same distance? Maybe you should mix it up, 10Ks, half marathon, full marathon. That could be one thing. Are you somebody who always looks around and gets motivated or demotivated by seeing other runners around you?
Yeah, I definitely get demotivated.
Yeah. So that's one thing. Like you said, at those point of times, you have to tell yourself, why am I doing this? Are you doing it to lose weight? Are you doing it because you have some goals? So this is when it really helps to have goals. And like I said, you have to have some specific time goals. So suppose you've done say a 2 hour half. Your goal could be, okay, I need to go under that 2 hour mark. So you keep pushing yourself. You see people on the sides of you, just speeding past you, and you might be starting to think, oh God, I should have trained more. I'm not good enough. That is that seed of doubt that's going into your mind. And then, like you said, that is why you're losing interest. This is why in competition, you're feeling it more, because people are at the best and you can see people overtaking you. Probably when you're going for your training runs, you're training with a similar pace group, right? So people are in similar, speed to you. It's more comfortable. It's a known environment. Here, what's happening is you're tending to compare yourself too much to others. So that's something you have to work on, where you stop worrying. But can you imagine me? I told you I'm very, very competitive. Okay, some of my friends who know me well enough are like, oh God, even with my daughters, right? They'll be running and they're like, oh my God, how can my daughters race me? I'll be going faster. So for me, it is very difficult to realize that I am nowhere in the running world. I might come maybe top 10 or something in a amateur race. That is purely from mental strength and the fact that I train consistently. But I have to keep telling myself, like, I hate when somebody overtakes me. Obviously, if it's a male runner, maybe you won't feel so bad. But if it's a female runner, I'll feel like, oh my God. So earlier, I also used to do that, where I used to keep looking at others. Then I keep telling myself, I am here, one, because it's helped me like so much with my weight loss and my fitness. Number two, it gives me a goal where I'm able to train constantly. And at the end of the day, if I get my best time, that is all that matters. So that is what keeps me going. So you really have to stop worrying about the others. That is probably your issue. Like, see, in a triathlon, there's so much going on. especially in the water, you don't really get to see everybody around you. Maybe that helped. The fact there are three different elements, there's a transition, that little bit of that monotonous mindset that you get into for a long run, that is not there. Maybe you can distract yourself looking at the surroundings. Of course, you can't do it maybe in a stadium run, but if you're going on nice road, one of those tougher 10Ks, one of those runs, you can see beautiful scenery, smile and wave at people. You need to keep yourself in a positive mindset till you finish. I can't explain how important. And when I say till you finish, till you cross that finish line, I know people, like I know all of you know Vijay Raghavan Venugopal, right, from Fast Enough. There's that one video of Veera where he almost collapses at the end.
Yes. Yeah.
He's staggering. You saw all of
Yeah, that was actually funny to see that.
Yeah, very scary. It's just a 10K race. Veera runs, sub 3 full so many
Full.
times. And he's, collapsing at a 10K race. But this is how mentally strong he is, where he had to be taken to hospital, given drips, taken away in an ambulance. He was that serious. But he's pushed himself mentally. He obviously would have been feeling horrible for the last few kilometers. So hitting that wall is quite common for a lot of athletes as well. So my, advice to you is, stay focused on your own self and maybe change it up. If you feel like, okay, I'm only doing half marathons, sign up for a 10K. Next time, try an ultra marathon run. Maybe do some sprint training. That day, we saw some amazing videos of, you would have seen on the page, Pramod sir sprinting. I was like so excited seeing Pramod sir sprinting. I also must start sprinting. So use different training techniques, different races to, to break up the monotony. But if you're facing this only in the race, it's purely because you're letting outside factors influence your performance, because the preparation is definitely there because you're part of a very well planned, like you said, you will do all Pramod sir's workouts. So the preparation and the planning, the training, your body is there, your mind has to be worked on.
Yeah, I think that is a key thing, because I realize when I run alone, I do very well. But when I run with others, I tend to lose motivation.
Yes.
Exactly. So what you can do in that case, for a marathon, go right at the back. Forget what, number they've given you. Start when, where you're nowhere close to the fast guys, right? It does not matter. I have friends like this who start, even Mumbai Marathon, everybody waits for it. They want to go into there. You have those areas, where some of them are not bothered. They're like, no, we want to start at the back because then we won't bother about anybody else. So maybe do that. Start right at the back. Anyway, only once you cross, the start line, your timing chip will pick up. So make sure there's no athletes where, you feel here you might be overtaking the slower runners. Maybe that will really motivate you. I love it, I am somebody who will negative split even my half marathon. So I know for a fact that I'll be racing some people. So I use that, oh my God, I raced this girl. Okay, I'm going to race that next girl, So just give yourself that motivation, push yourself. And this reason of this talk today is to tell you that most of it is just mental.
So, we will take one more question, maybe, otherwise we will wind up. But while some question is coming, I'm just giving you one great thing about Deepak, and you would love this, Nisha.
Yes.
Deepak's wife, like any wife, tagged along with Deepak and to running. And then she picked up so much. So Deepak took a back seat for her. Deepak, because they had a very young kid. And Deepak helped her achieve her targets and everything. And she's very competitive lady. And you don't want her to be around, especially for a full or a ultra. And after 30, you can't shake her off. And after 35, you can catch her kind of. The point I was making was, I always admire Deepak for what he has done for his wife, taking kids. Very few husbands do that. So
that's amazing, Deepak. Hats off to you. And this is something you should be thinking of when you're doing that last, 10K. You should be thinking about the fact that I've given up so much. This is my time to shine. Like I'm going to do it. And this is something even my husband does. So I must mention that, like I said, every morning I'm out training or working or doing, chasing my goals. He gives up on his morning, and he's quite a morning person. But he realizes that, I have my goals and I'm very, very, so like your wife is competitive, I am competitive. He, makes it a point to, take a back seat in some way. So when it's his time in the evening, I make sure that I am at home with the kids. So, amazing to see couples like this.
Okay, so if there are no
Hey, Nisha.
questions,
Divya here, coach.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Nisha. Divya here. Hi. Yeah, I have a question. Have you ever experienced an attack of fear, anxiety, or panic? If so, how did you deal with it?
Definitely. So my biggest, I never talked about my setbacks, but straight after the Olympics, while I was qualifying for the Olympics, I started getting very bad back pain. Now I was already at the point I was very close to the Olympic qualifying. And like I said, we're used to living in somewhat of exhaustion, pain, tiredness. It's normal for athletes. But when a pain continues for many days, many months, or many weeks, you know something is wrong. So I went to the best doctors in Australia. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and I would wake up in pain, that much of pain. So finally, after the first Olympics, where I was at the top of my career, I was 18, I'm trying for the next Olympics in 2004. I got diagnosed. It took me a year, and this is a from being at the peak, at 100%, I came down to maybe about 30%. I would swim, I would cry, come out in pain. I tried acupuncture, I tried painkillers, I tried physio. I went to 20 of the top doctors all over the country. Finally, it took me 1.5 years where already my mental health definitely went down a couple of steps for sure. Physical, capabilities for sure. As much as I could do, I was doing. They realized I had a benign tumor in my backbone, and it was not cancerous, but they had to remove it, and it was pressing on a nerve. So I was having pain radiating down my leg. My foot was numb, and the doctor told me very clearly that if it's very bad, we might have to put a plate on your back with screws if it's affected your spine, and then your swimming career is over. So I was, just shattered. So I'd say those are the toughest times definitely for me, because as an athlete, your whole identity is about you as being a swimmer. You don't even know the outside world. So one is at that point, I realized the value of my support system, like how Deepak supporting his wife. When you're at your lowest, you will realize who your support team is. My coach flew down for my surgery in the middle of the senior nationals. He drove down to Coimbatore where I was getting my surgery done. And getting back from there, to me, is probably a bigger achievement than getting to the Olympics. Because going to the Olympics was tough, yes, but I didn't have any major setback. Here, 2002, I had my surgery. In 2004, I swam the Olympic trials. And within a month, what really helped me was two things. One is, I'm somebody who I work on negative reinforcement. So if somebody tells me I can't do it, I want to prove them wrong, and I want to take pictures and show them.
Same here. Same here. Same here.
Whatever it is that works for you. Some people are the opposite of that. They want positive reinforcement. For me, everybody said, "See, this Nisha, she's not had a surgery. She just chilled out after the first Olympics. She's just lying about this back." Some people made me turn and show my scar, right? With the swimsuit, you can see my scar. I had 10 stitches. I had to show people my scar for them to believe that I had a surgery. And that got me so angry. So I took this anger and I put it into my swimming, so every time I was tired, every time I was unfit, and I had to lose all that weight again after my surgery. So that, I think, that anger, which I never had pre-Olympics, that anger fueled me. So I use that a lot now. I find how potent it is. Instead of, like you'll see, I'm always smiling and happy. Obviously, I'm not happy and smiley all the time. But I take all those moments of frustration, whether it's my kids annoying me or something going wrong at work, or even if I have a bad training day, I internalize it, but I use it when I have to. When I have a tough training set and you need to dig in for the little more last repeat of a tough, interval set, I use that as motivation to okay, you said I can't do it, I'm going to show you, So you have to take those negative moments, those people who have, again, you need to not get depressed by it. You have to use it to your advantage. So everything, you're taking away the power from other people to influence you, and you're using it actually to improve your performance.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nisha.
Yeah, great session, Nisha. A lot of time we have taken of yours. And guys, I hope you realize that. So you guys would have realized that champion doesn't like to lose. Yeah, all through, if you would have seen Nisha, it was very clear that what makes a champion, she doesn't want to lose anything. Yeah. So all of us are champions. You have to understand that, right? Whoever gets up in the morning, go out, he is a champion. So we just need to inculcate that attitude, what Nisha just demonstrated in her positive, all that talk. So we just need to inculcate that in our kid. So thanks, Nisha, for this fantastic session.
Thank you, sir.
I've seen
Thanks
so
to
many
all the
messages,
judges.
great session. So I guess everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Great
so much,
session.
everyone.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
See you on the
Thank you
road.
so much. Lovely session.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys
Thanks,
out
thanks.
there in the next run.
Yeah. I will make the
Thank you.
recording available by tomorrow. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, sir.